On the Module 2 activity, we're going to be working with an image from the Northern Ireland coast. I have that attached right below the Module 2 activity link. So you're just going to select that. It'll open up in another window. The easiest way to save this image is just to use the Control key and the S key. That'll bring up the Save As window. And then I'd recommend making a folder on your computer or a flash drive called Advanced Photoshop Assignments. And then you can just leave the default name and hit Save. You can see that I've already saved a copy of it here. So now I have that image opened up in Photoshop. And when it opens up as a background layer. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change that background layer to a layer. So the easiest way to do that is just to right click, and then after you've right clicked, the very first option is layer from background. And we're just going to take the default name of layer 0. So now we've changed the background layer to layer 0, and the reason that we do that is so we can edit this layer. Now on this assignment, we're going to change the image size to an 8 by 10. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to Image, and then we're going to go to Canvas size. So not image size, we want to change the canvas size. So right now it's a 10 by 7.5. So we're going to change that height to an 8 because we're going to have a 10 by 8 inch image when we're done, and we're going to leave the relative box unchecked, and we're going to leave the image anchored in the center of the canvas. Now sometimes you may want to anchor your image at the top of the canvas, or maybe you want to anchor it at the bottom, but for this I'm going to leave it anchored in the center and leave the relative box unchecked, and then I'm going to say OK. When I do that, it creates my canvas as being 8 by 10. And we're going to use a tool called Content Aware Scale, and we're going to scale our image to fit this canvas. Now on this one, we're not going to have to scale it very much because our canvas size is pretty close to the size of the image, but I want to show you how this works. So to do this, you're going to go up to Edit. About halfway down, you're going to see an option that's Content Aware Scale. Select that. Once you have that active, then you're going to notice these handles that are going to appear. So I'm going to pull this up to the top. I select my check mark. Do the same thing at the bottom. I'm going to do Edit, Content Aware Scale again, and then select the bottom option for my handle, and then hit my Commit Transform check mark, and then I'm finished. So now my image nicely fits on to that canvas size. Now the Content Aware Scale is a tool that allows you to change the image size to fit the canvas size. Now what we did just now was pretty simple, but I could have wanted to make this image, instead of keeping it horizontal, I could have maybe changed it to be vertical, and I want to show you what that would look like. So now once I have that active again, on the handle on the left hand side, I'm going to pull on that. Notice as I pull on that, the buildings become closer together and my lake becomes smaller. And the Content Aware has a method of optimizing the image. And this is actually one of the newer features with Photoshop. And the same thing, notice when I pull on the right, these trees are going to come closer together. My mountains on the top are becoming closer together. Now, I recommend when you do this to do a small amount at a time and let Photoshop basically adjust in between your transforms. And so I'd want to do a little bit, go up and hit my commit, do some more until I had it the size I wanted it. Sometimes you may have an image move more than you want it to, so there are some limitations to this, but it is a wonderful tool. So I'm going to go back up to my history and find where I left off on the project I was working on. Okay, so now I had to commit to that first. Okay, now I can go back. All right, so now I should be at the spot I was finished doing my 8x10 before I showed you those features. Okay, so now I have an 8x10 canvas. The next thing we're going to do is remove this fence. To remove this fence, I'm going to have you use the spot healing brush tool. And you may want to enlarge your image so that way it's easier for you to work with. So you can come over and scale it, use the zoom tool to zoom into the image so you can see the fence. Then I'm going to go back up and get my spot healing brush. Once I select that, I can change my brush size. I'm going to slide it up to a 30. You may want it smaller or larger. Sometimes as you're working on this, you may want to make it smaller or larger. And then once you have it selected, then you're just going to use small, short brush strokes. And as you do these strokes with the brush, as I said, you may want to adjust the size. When you get finished and you have the fence removed from your image, then you'll have a beautiful image of just the hillside and the lake without it being obstructed by this fence. Okay, so as I said, you're going to remove this entire fence on this assignment. It actually goes pretty fast once you start using the tool. So we're going to say that I'm finished. And then once you're done, you're going to save this as a Photoshop PSD file. So you'll do File, Save As, and you'll want to make sure that you name it, you select the file type as a Photoshop PSD, and then you're going to call it Module 2 Activity. And I already have had one saved, so it's asking me to resave it. And then after that, you're going to go to your back to Blackboard. And then on the Module 2 Activity link, you'll open that up. And then you'll see an option to browse my computer. You'll select the Module 2 activity that you saved, and once again, make sure you save it as a PSD file. And then you'll submit that assignment.